Ladies and gentlemen, today we take a look at a very different side of the bass fishing universe that lies somewhere between product development and art. And that's because today we are lucky enough to be joined by my favorite lure painter and replica mount taxidermist, Blake Paff of Dark Corner Customs. Today, we are going to take a behind-the-scenes look at what actually goes into creating some of the most stunning paint jobs and mounts in the business. All that and more on this episode of Tackle Talk.
Hello, everybody. I'm Bill Dance, and you're listening to Tackle Talk.
This is the Tackle Talk Podcast, brought to you by American Legacy Fishing and Outdoors. World-class fishing gear, unmatched personal service. Now, here's your host, Andrew Hayes.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Tackle Talk Podcast. We have a great show for you today, but first, none of this is possible without the great folks over at American Legacy Fishing. And right now, lucky you, American Legacy Fishing is still running their awesome Memorial Day sales from now through Wednesday, May 28th. That means you can save up to 50% off gear from Dobbins, Phoenix, Fenwick, Jackal, Abu Garcia, Berkeley, Shimano, Daiwa, and more today and tomorrow. So if you go to www.americanlegacyfishing.com and click the Memorial Day banner at the top of the homepage, you'll be taken to a page where you can buy things like the Berkeley Slobber Knocker for $6.59. You can get Berkeley Nessies starting at $6.49. You can get bulk 1,000-yard spools of Daiwa Samurai Fluorocarbon for half off. You can get Jackal Drift Fries for $8.99 a pack. They're regularly $12.99. 50% off Spiderwire Durabraid. The Bubba Pro Series scales are $60 off right now. Dobbins Ecstasies are like $180 off. They have Shimano 7.2 medium poison Adrena casting rods for $110 off. They have the Abu Garcia Xenon MG LTX marked down at almost $300 off. They have select Fenwick, Shimano, and Daiwa rods all half off, and some other really steep discounts and crazy kind of sales going on over there. So hurry before they sell out if you want to take advantage of those. That's the Memorial Day sale going on today, Tuesday, May 27th, and tomorrow, Wednesday, May 28th, over at www.americanlegacyfishing.com. And I just checked, the Tackle Talk 5 code does work to be stacked on top of these Memorial Day sales. So an extra 5% off these already crazy sales with code TACKLETALK5 at checkout over at www.americanlegacyfishing.com. Okay, folks, we have a special guest today, a guest that I have wanted to have on Tackle Talk for a long time, and it is Blake Paff of Dark Corner Customs. So I'm going to back up and give you guys a really quick timeline on how this episode came to be really fast. So I ordered a Dark Horse tackle box years and years ago, maybe even the first DHT box I ever got. And inside was a crankbait from a company called Dark Corner Custom Crankbaits. And I'd never heard of them before I got this bait in the box. And no offense to anybody else in that box, but this bait just stood out. And at that time especially, but even now sometimes, I've never really been one to pay attention to the paint color of a bait as much as I do pay attention to the action and the hardware and the bait design itself. But this bait just kind of looked like a work of art. And so my first exposure to this brand, Dark Corner Customs, was from that Dark Horse tackle box. So after that, I thought it was cool enough. I followed him on Instagram. Well, if you fast forward probably a year or so, and all of a sudden I start seeing more and more pictures of these breathtakingly good paint jobs on my feed. And I follow quite a few people that, can make custom tackle. And almost every single time I had a picture that really caught my eye and made me stop scrolling and look at it a little bit longer, I'd look up and it was Dark Corner Custom Crankbaits. And sometimes you just have a gut feeling about these things. Like whatever it is that's catching my eye or making me take notice, that's not a coincidence. There's something there. There's some itch that bait or that paint job is scratching, or a void that needs filled that no one else really seems to be doing. So I messaged the guy and I basically just started talking to him and just wanted to let him know that I thought his work was incredibly cool. Just a very normal, genuine, like, hey, this stuff is really, really cool. I hope you keep it up. Kudos to you. And we just kind of went back and forth, for a little bit and kind of became friendly. And I didn't want anything, right? I don't want stuff sent to me. I have zero ulterior motives like most of the messages that these companies companies get these days where people want to, have them sponsor them or send them free stuff or whatever. I just think that people that are doing cool stuff and making cool gear should receive compliments and should get the recognition that they deserve for that. So that was my only intention there. But then you fast forward as more time goes by, and I finally get my hands on 2 unpainted OG smooth body KGB Chad Chads, like the ones that were impossible to buy for a long time. They would sell out in 0.5 seconds whenever they would drop on the KGB website. You almost had to be like a bot or a computer wizard to get one at that time. Well, I ended up being able to purchase 2 on one of the drops, and I was pumped. But then I decided I didn't want to just fish them plain and keep them with no paint on them. I wanted to get them painted. And of course, who else would I ask but the guy that keeps making sick, awesome paint jobs that I keep seeing on my feed? I wanted Blake to paint these baits. So I messaged him. I sent him some pictures of the shad in my local lakes that I wanted him to kind of color match. And then I sent him the baits. I paid him for 2 custom paint jobs on those chads. And boys, did he knock it out of the park. Like, I guarantee you, no one had Chad Shads that looked as cool as these did. And at the time, I probably could have sold them for a ridiculous amount of money. But as time goes on, I've had him do a few more baits over the years. And then I see that this guy starts doing fish mounts too. And I thought, oh boy, right, if he's going to do these mounts half as good as he does his crankbaits, he's going to kill it in the mount game. Just wait. And he ended up doing just that. So much so that like 2 falls ago, I caught my personal best local river smallmouth, and I wanted to get a replica of it made for my studio, and I had Blake make that replica. And I cannot describe to you how blown away I was when I opened that box. Like, words are not going to do it justice. Blake at Dark Corner just has a gift, and that replica that I'm staring at literally on my wall right above my computer as we record this episode every single week is just breathtaking. Every time I look at it, I'm so pumped. It's sitting, and we'll talk about this in the episode, I think. It's sitting right next to my skin mount. It knocks the snot out of my actual skin mount largemouth that I have right beside it. Like, they are night and day different in terms of quality. So Blake at Dark Corner Customs is just one of my favorite in the game for both custom paint jobs on baits and replica mounts. So over the past year or so, we've kind of waited for the right time to have him on and have him join us as he kind of continues to solidify his business and grow everything he's doing and all of that. And we felt that the time was finally right. So I'm very excited to have my favorite replica mount taxidermist and my favorite custom lure painter join us today to talk about everything that goes into both sides of his business and how he brings fish back to life and how he uses that gift of art that he so clearly has. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you do, you can go find him on Instagram at darkcorner_custom_crankbaits. You can also find him on Facebook, or he has a website, darkcornercrankbaits.com. But here is our conversation with Blake Paff. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are joined today by the owner of Dark Corner Custom Crankbaits and Dark Corner Fish Replicas. It is Blake Paff. Blake, buddy, thank you so much for taking some time to come on Tackle Talk. I know this has been a long time coming. We're really excited to have you.
Yeah, I'm excited to be on here. This is pretty cool.
So I guess I want to start by asking, and I think this is true, but I'm not 100% sure. Is this your first podcast you've ever done?
I did one for Dark Horse Tackle one time a couple years ago, probably, and it was short.
So this is number 2 ever.
Yeah.
Well, that's a shame because, I mean, you know this. I've tried to get you on for probably the better part of 2 years at this point. But I'm going to start off with an extremely bold statement, I think, but I believe it to be true. Blake, I think you are the most criminally underrated painter in fishing. Like, period, end sentence. And I know we'll get into this in a little bit on why, I think that is and all of the great stuff that you've done. But, there is a reason why Blake is the first lure painter or first taxidermist or both that we've ever had on Tackle Talk, because he's my favorite. And I didn't want to bring someone else on to have this conversation until the person that I wanted to talk to was kind of ready to come on and do this. So, Blake, I want to start from the beginning with you, and then we'll work to what you're currently doing today. But which came first for you? Was it the artistic side of things or fishing in general?
Well, I've always been really artistic since a young age, and that's always been something I wanted to do. So, but then my dad always took me and my brother fishing since I was there's pictures of me sitting in a baby carrier sitting on the end of a dock. So I've been fishing my whole life. So, I guess fishing first, and then right after that was the art. But I've kind of went back and forth with them, and then later on, just put it together.
At what point did you realize that you had like an artistic bone in your body? Because I have none. Like I can't draw, I can't paint, I can't do anything. Like I'm a very, I don't know what side of that brain you're is, either right or left side. Whichever one's not the artistic side is me. I'm way more analytical and mathematic and that type of stuff. When did you realize that you had that side of things to you where you could draw and, you know, paint and you were good with that stuff?
It was probably about second grade. I had an art teacher in elementary school. She saw something in me, I guess, that I didn't realize I had, and pushed me and really focused on me more and helped me all through elementary school. And after that, I was hooked. I took every art class I could in high school and ended up being a graphic designer.
Oh, okay. So you went the digital side first.
Yeah, I wanted to just draw. I didn't want to do any kind of computers, but I ended up taking some classes in high school at like a vocational school for graphic design, and I liked it a lot. So I went to college for it, and then I did it, I guess, professionally for 7 or 8 years, and then I actually got a job, came open teaching at another high school, different from the one that I went to, but for graphic design. So I did that for about 11 years, and then started painting with an airbrush, and one thing led to another.
What was the first time that you decided to pick it up and be like, I want to try painting lures? Like where was that bridge or that connection? Where'd that come from?
During COVID, actually. I think it was about 2019, I think. Since I taught high school, they just shut down the school and said, go home. And I got about 4 months or 3 or 4 months extra summer that summer. And I was watching YouTube videos, and my dad's always kind of wanted me to try to paint fish or do something like that. And I bought an airbrush off Amazon, a cheap one, and started messing around with some baits. I saw you could buy blank ones on the internet, so I ordered some, and I was really bad at it. So I mean, I can't say if these people see my work and they're like, it's so good. I'm like, well, if you saw my work 5 years ago, you're right there where I was. So I mean, it just takes practice. You just can't give up on it. I really loved doing it, and I couldn't stop. I was almost addicted to it. Every night I'd go home and from work and stressed out, and like that was like my stress reliever. So I'd just go home and paint, and so I kept it going.
I think you might be being modest here because, dude, if you've only been doing this for 5 years and you say that you weren't good at the beginning, then your learning curve was so fast. Like to get to where you are now, it's scary to think when you look at your products now that you've only been painting lures or, painting replicas or whatever for a couple of years at this point. I mean, when you look at your stuff, it looks like a 10, 20, 30-year vet type guy of doing this sort of thing. So you obviously just have that in your DNA somewhere on the artistic side, because if you took me and you're like, yeah, I want to start painting lures, and then, yeah, my original sucking lures are going to be way worse than yours, where I guarantee it, because it's really crazy to see what you've been able to do in 4 or 5 years, I guess, at this point, and how much you've grown year to year. Like if you go back and look at your photos, and we'll talk about kind of the lineage of this here in a little bit, but I mean, the improvement that you've been able to see, like I was blown away with your work in, I don't know what that probably would have been, 2021, 2022. I don't know, whenever I got introduced to you. And I mean, since then, you just look back and you're like, wow, I thought that stuff was awesome, and it was awesome. And it's just scary to see that you can keep getting better from that. So before we get into how all of that stuff works, I want to ask you a couple questions on the fishing side too. So you are in South Carolina, right? And that's where the name, I'm assuming, Dark Corner comes from. I think there's some sort of like local lore of the Dark Corner of South Carolina, right? Is that where you're at?
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah. I guess back in the day, we're kind of up in the upstates, what we call the upstate of South Carolina, but it's right where the mountains start. And back in the day, that used to be a pretty rough area. You didn't want to get lost in that area, so it was a lot of bluegrass music,
yeah,
and
deliverance,
moonshine,
yeah.
A lot of moonshining. So that was, they just called it the Dark Corner. So back then it was probably some, like I said, it was a rough area, but now it's more of a gimmick that everybody, there's like, there's dark corner fire ant control, and so it's not like it's a I don't know. A lot of people hear my name that aren't from around here, and they think I'm just me sitting in the corner with the lights off kind of thing. But that's not what it is. It's just kind of a, I don't know, the area, and it's just a cool name. I thought.
Something you guys around there have just embraced, and it becomes like the local lingo there. So what's your target species down there? Obviously, I'm assuming you're a bass angler because you make a lot of bass lures and you paint a lot of bass lures. But growing up, like, what did you target? What were your target species? What do you like to fish for?
I'd say my favorites, like, probably bluegills. There's a lot of local ponds that we used to go to that just had some big brim. We call them brim, I guess. There's different sunfish. And I grew up doing that a lot. My dad likes to troll for crappie. So we did that a lot. And catfish. When the crappie kind of go deeper, the catfish seem to start biting more, and we're trolling for those. But I like pond hopping myself. I'd rather just go to some ponds and spend a couple hours there in the evenings. But bass, they're all fun to catch, but you can't beat like a really big brim when they hit. They're on the ultralight. They're pretty wild to catch. So
well, and I have to imagine for someone that likes art and likes painting things and stuff, like, I mean, brim and bluegill and all those type of subspecies of sunfish and all that kind of stuff are some of the coolest looking fish you probably have down there in terms of colors and blending certain colors and different colors peeking through. You're not just like a pale largemouth or something like that. Like, they are pretty to look at least. So I'm sure on the artistic side, those are a little bit more fun.
Yeah, I mean, but the problem for me is my price keeps going up because I keep getting better, and then nobody wants to pay that for a bluegill. So it's like, I'm kind of like, man,
it's what you got the baits for. You can make bluegill baits, yeah.
Yeah, you're right. I would love to do a bluegill. I'd love for someone to want a bluegill, but
one of those huge like red ears or something, like dinner plate sized. Yeah,
I would love that. I mean, any of them. I want to do a pumpkin seed. I think would be pretty cool. I've not had the chance to really paint a really pretty one.
Do you guys get them down there where they get like that aqua veining on their cheeks down there? Yeah. That's like the coolest I think any freshwater fish around here looks, when you get a really like aqua colored up pumpkin seed.
Oh yeah, and I think my favorite is a red breast. We have those. We have them in some of the streams here, but in the lower part of the state, in like the dark water rivers, they're very abundant and they're beautiful. The bright red breasts, and then they have the blue vein, like the pumpkin seed too, on the cheeks or the gill plate. So now, and I think this is right. This is your full-time job now, right? It is. Yes. This month is 2 years. I've been doing it full-time 2 years.
Congrats, man. I can remember having conversations with you around that time where, it was like do I leave my teaching job? I like my teaching job, but I think this, lure painting and replica thing has legs to it. And I want to ask you about that decision, because I feel like, I'm assuming there are a lot of people that are listening to this that are in their version of that situation. I mean, I've been in it at one point in my life, like everybody has, where you have this passion and something you're good at, then you have your kind of safe daytime job, and there's a lot of people that are right on that edge that just need that little nudge to be like, you can go do it. If you're good at it and you have a passion about it, you can probably make it work and make it succeed. And you are a great instance of that. You took that leap of faith, and I have to imagine it was a good thing looking back on it, where you get to kind of chase your dream and you get to do something that you really do love to do. Has everything been pretty great since that day and since you made that choice?
Yeah, I was super stressed at the teaching job, and now I feel like I'm not. It's a different type of stress, but it's so much. It took a lot to get used to the whole. I'm my own boss. I do what I want when I want, but if I don't get the work done, I don't get paid, kind of thing. Before, when you're teaching, it was like you get paid every month, no matter how hard you work or not. But it's been awesome. I mean, I love it so much. I just can't imagine doing anything else now. It's all I think about all the time. And a lot of it's getting, how do I get this done? Or, it's not just the art part. Learning the business side of it's been kind of a pain a little bit, but and then having time to practice on certain other stuff because I've gotten better. I've gotten more business, which is awesome, but now I have less time to practice on other stuff that I want to learn more of, like molding and things like that. So some people say, you do that in your free time. Like, I don't have free time.
What anymore. Free time? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
That would be nice if I had that thing. That is now a mythical pipe dream here. Yeah. So the one thing I think is really cool about what you do, and like, I'll start with the lure side of things. And I think I want to hammer into some specific questions on what that side of what you do looks like. But for me, I think there's a couple different ways to think of what you do. And I think I'm probably in like a different camp than most people. I think a lot of people look for a custom painter of baits, and they're looking for it to give them some sort of advantage from that custom paint job. Like, it stands out better in certain water, it matches your actual natural forage better. And I think all of those like have merit to them for sure. Like, you match your exact crawl on this crankbait. And I think all that's really cool. I think what I look at what you do, and because again, my analytical side of the brain does not let me just enjoy art. It has to have a purpose to it. And I love that what you do is basically, it lets me appreciate art because it's usable art. Like, I don't want the painting on the wall. I'm never going to be that guy. That's just not who I am. I don't really get it, right? But what you do is art that someone like me can appreciate because it has a use and because it has utility. And I think that's so cool. And I think that helps people like me kind of bridge that gap to someone that does not care about art at all. I can't name you 2 artists ever. I could not care. You take me to an art museum, I would rather like gouge my eyes out. That is not me. But what you do, I can look at that and be like, that is one of the coolest things I've seen in a long time. Does that make sense at all?
Oh yeah. Yeah. And it's a really good feeling, because I've tried other things. Like I said, I've been artistic my whole life, and I've tried drawing people's kids. I've tried drawing people's pets. I've tried doing logos for people and designing things for them. And it's like, I never got that feeling like I do when I paint something, and the amount of people that sees my work now that wants it, and I can say, this is my price, and they're like, okay, and start throwing money at me. And it's like, I never got that before. It's like, for me to have this ability and this talent and that God's given me, and I finally found that, put it all together and found that one thing that I can do that people want. And I don't know. It's awesome. It's hard to describe how. I don't know. It's really cool.
And you're in an industry where there are very few things, I think, in fishing that bridge into, like, in some other parts of life. Like, there are certain things that people will pay the price no matter what. It's like babies, weddings, and funerals. People will pay whatever. They want to make sure it's right. They pay for quality, and price tag goes out the window. You are almost in one of those camps in fishing, in a world where we are so price sensitive to everything. Like, we will scour the internet for a 2% off discount on anything. But when it comes to like what you do, or, a replica mount, and you're trying to bring back to life like the best memory this person ever has, $1, $2, $3 an inch makes no difference at all to this person. They just want the person that's best for the job, that gives them the most accurate mount at the end of the day, when you're talking about like the replica side of what you do. And I think that's so cool, because you have a skill set, and that is so evident in an industry like fishing, where people don't want to pay 2 cents more for something. I will pay. I don't care what you're charging per inch, on your replicas. If I need a replica made, I'm going to Blake.
Right. Yeah. And at the beginning, when I first started, my mentor, he kind of told me that you need to make a choice right now. Do you want to be a sit-down restaurant, or do you want to be a fast food restaurant? And I was like, I want to be a sit-down and eat restaurant. I want to be, people come to me, they want that experience, that just that higher level, and they're willing to pay for it. And the quality over the quantity, I guess. There's a lot of guys that just get fish in, get them back out, and they all look the same. And I want to make sure that the fish you're getting looks like your fish.
Yeah, and that goes for your baits too, right? I mean, the very first time I ever sent anything to you, I sent 2 baits that I almost wanted to like hand deliver myself, because I was afraid they would get lost in something. Like 2 OG smooth body Chad shads at the time were worth their weight in gold. And I was like, who do I want to paint these? I want Blake to paint these. So you send them to you. You could have told me whatever price you wanted to paint those things, and they were coming to you. And that's just, again, a testament to what you do and your work. So I want to start, if we want to break this down, I guess, in 2 quick segments. One would be on the actual crankbait and hard body side of things. So when you get a blank in your hand, and like we see the end product, but if you have a blank that you've bought online or that you got from someone that now needs a paint job, what does that process look like for you, kind of from start to finish, from unpainted blank to finished product, and how long does that take?
Well, I guess it depends. If someone sends me a bait, then I'm just going to paint that one bait. But if it's just I'm doing a blank, I'll usually do probably 5 to 10 of them, because if I'm going to paint one, I might as well paint 10, and I can sell the rest. I'm in several local stores, and I can just take them to them, and they'll buy them, or I can put them on the website now. But so if it's like a repaint that someone sends me, then I'll have to scuff it up and try to get as much paint off as I can, and tape up the bill. And then, like I said, if they've sent me one to repaint, then they've asked me to paint it to look like this. So I'll either they send me a picture to match, or they want one of my paint patterns that I've come up with. And so then I just start painting. After that, I just start spraying. If it's a blank, it's very similar. I don't have to scuff it up. It's already blank, but I can, if I want it to be a ghost belly, and then I won't spray it white, but I still have to tape up the bills and prep everything for that. And then after that, it's just all about layering the paint in different ways, different textures, different colors. If I like to do natural. I know you've noticed that. I don't like to do abstract and just start throwing colors on there. I like to look at a bait fish and try to match it as best as I can. I mean, it's not like printing a picture and stick it on there, but I try to get as close as I can. And I just try to take it apart, dissect the colors and see what's at the back and work your way forward. And it's all about layering.
Is there a rhyme or reason to how you have to layer? Like, do you have to be cognizant of darker versus lighter colors, or, this shape, or how much of the body it's taking up? Is there a rhyme or reason to how your layers work, or is it just kind of subconsciously? It's like, all right, we're going to start with this and do this, and 5 layers later, it looks awesome.
Yeah, well, I mean, like I said, I came as a graphic designer. I actually worked at a big print shop. So I have a printing background, so I understand how color works. That's a really big thing. You can just grab paint and start slinging it, but if you know what happens when you overlap this color to that color, what I mean, it's not just red and blue make purple. I mean, you're working with pearls, you're working with transparent colors. So if the transparent color, if you go over it, you're going over 4 different colors with it, it's going to change these 4 colors to something totally different and in different spots. And there's color shifting colors. There's opaque colors. If you go over that with that, you can cover everything up. So you got to understand how all those different types of paint work and how all the colors blend. And there's colors with glitter in it. There's so many different styles and candy colors. Yeah, it just comes with practice too. So I mean, the more you do it, the better you get at it. I mean, and I joined Facebook groups in the beginning. I asked questions. I stalked, not in a good way. I stalked a lot of Facebook pages. People that were really good. People asking them questions, they'd answer them, and I would just be reading anything and everything I could. So I mean, I started where everybody else does. I just figure it out. And I still see people, there's people that message me about stuff like that. Like, how did you do this? How did you do this? And they think like I'm so much better, but I'm like, there's guys that's been doing it 3 or 4 or 5 more years than me. And I look at them the same way. And I'm like asking them, hey, how'd you do that? Cause I want to know too, but, I don't want to copy it. I don't want my stuff to look like theirs, but if there's something they did that I thought was cool that I can incorporate into mine to still be my style and look like my stuff, I don't want them to look at my stuff and think that looks like that guy's. When people see my stuff, they know it's mine from making my own stencils. I don't like buying stencils as much as I can. I don't know why, but it bugs me to death. There's a bluegill stencil that's like the stripes on a bluegill, and I see I see bait painters use that same stencil.
I know exactly which
time.
one you're talking about.
You know which one I'm talking
Yes,
about. I
I know
see
it.
it all the time, and I refuse to buy that one because I can't. I don't want mine to look like everybody else's, and so I don't know. That's a pet peeve of mine, I guess. I'll cut them out of business cards. I have a buddy that's got a laser engraver, and I can draw them up and then send him the files, and he'll cut them out for me. But anything that you can do to stand out, that's not the same as everybody else, that's the way to go.
Yeah, what you said earlier makes a ton of sense. Having the graphic design background and knowing what colors do on top of other colors is something that is like a technical piece of information that I think a lot of people probably just don't have because they don't have the background, that you have. But that does make a big difference. And I think that's how you're able to get, this is me talking out of my tail, but I'm assuming some of these colors and some of these iridescent looks that you're able to get out of some of your baits and out of your replicas, where like at light at different angles is hitting it differently. And it's because that, that scale pattern that you have or whatever, like that's not item 2748 on lurenet.com. Like it's a combination of 7 different colors that you've layered correctly, and it gives it like this depth look to it. It gives it this wet look. When you look at it from the right side of the room versus the left side of the room, it looks different, just like a real fish does, or just like a real bait fish does. So yeah, that's very cool. That makes a lot of sense, because that was another thing I was wondering. I mean, looking at some of this stuff, we'll get to the mount stuff in a second, but like I'm looking at my smallmouth right now, and it's mind-blowing how much is going into the color scheme of that fish. And again, it's not paint by numbers. There's not 7 different colors. It's like, okay, you use this one for this layer and this one for this layer and this one for this layer. It's a mesh of all of these probably normal paint colors that you've got offline, and how you actually layer them and how you actually stack them on top of each other. And then you do have a style. Like if I look at a crankbait or a jerk bait or something, like I can tell pretty quickly, oh, that's Dark Corner, or oh, that's somebody else, because you do have a style. And yours is, I would call it like ultra realism. You have some of these colors that just knock your socks off. I'll never forget the first one I saw from you that I was just like, there's no way that I haven't seen this before, was your regular crappie pattern. And that crappie pattern, not the black dot, but the background of it, like just the sort of white part, I guess, of the crappie, is this really cool, again, iridescent, clear color to it that's got all of these kind of blue shimmers to it that an actual white crappie has when you look at it in the sun and all that kind of stuff. So how long does it take you to get a design? Because you have like, your crappie pattern, your perch pattern, your crawdaddies, like all of those type of things. How long does it take you to perfect those kind of like styles that you like to re-replicate?
Well, sometimes some of them I'm still tweaking. I mean, I think they look good, and then I'll try something different the next time, and I'm like, I like that better, or I forget how I did it, and I have to like try to replicate it again. Like I did so many steps the first time that I can't remember all of them and what order I did them. But I'll have to get one that I painted and try to reverse engineer it in my mind, like how I did it. But yeah, man, I don't know. Sometimes I'll just play around with it. Sometimes I've had people send me a picture and say, hey, can you do this type of fish? And I end up doing it, and I post it on Instagram, and people are like, that's amazing. I love that. And I'm like, okay. And then I want 10 of them. I want 15 of them. I'm like, okay. And then it ends up being something super cool. And now that's my pattern. I guess I just keep going with it. So, and that's happened. I mean, that's happened a bunch of times. It's like, I have to message that first guy back that wanted that specific one, and like, hey, thanks for requesting that pattern, because that one's been a big seller for me. And so I mean, I don't know, that's pretty cool how that happens, because I try to think of something myself, and I'll sit there and stare. I have a whole wall full of all types of different containers full of all kinds of different baits, and in 5 years there's probably some in there I've never even touched, because they're just not a popular bait, but I ordered them when I first began because I just wanted to practice on some. But I'll try to say, well, I'm going to do this bait, but I would think I'm going to try to do this type of pattern. And then I do it, and it doesn't sell that well. But it's like, sometimes you got to listen to the customer too. Like if the customers are requesting this, then we're going to go with that one. But coming up with stuff, it's kind of like writer's block or something like that. It's like, I just don't know what to paint on what type of bait. But sometimes you just got to listen to the customer, and they'll tell you what they want. So
this is what's so funny, like just totally different ways brains work. Like we are almost like I don't know, think of it in cooking terms. Like I'm like a baker. I want someone to just tell me, oh, you do 1 teaspoon of this, you do 1 cup of this, you do 2 cups of this, you mix it all up and that's your end result. It's great. Versus you're more like a chef. It's just kind of like, I don't know, man. I saw a picture of this. I tried to replicate it. I did it. It looks awesome. So I just kept doing it. And it's like, it's just a totally different way of thinking that I'm jealous and I wish I had. But you talked about some of the different, patterns that you've perfected over the years. Do you have like a top, I don't know, give me like Blake's top 5 of your favorite patterns that are kind of like in your tool belt that you've done over the years that you like to put on any sort of hard bait?
Right now, the crawdaddy pattern, any color that I've done, but it's not just the crawdaddy. I think the matte finish on them is what's really helped sell them too. People like that, and I hate to say it's like it catches people, and I need it to catch people
right
before it catches the fish. So, but people see it and then it
can do
catches their
both.
eyes. Yeah. But that one's been a really good one, especially the last few months, I guess, just this time of year. But the crappie pattern's been really good. The one that's the shad 4.0, I call it. It's got a little bit of chartreuse on the tail. It's very similar to the shad one, but I changed it up a little bit. It's got a little more of the interference iridescent colors.
Yeah.
I think what else? Bluegill, it sells good. I mean, it's any kind of match the hatch kind of thing. So the shads, the bluebacks, the bluegills, the red breast one I did,
is very
that
cool.
one. Yeah, that one sold. I had a original red breast, and then I had somebody send me a picture of red breast that was a little bit different, and I changed it a little bit, and I call it red breast 2.0, I guess, because it's a little different. But that one was pretty hot. Actually, I posted that one before we went to the beach a couple of years ago. Maybe it was last year, and I was mad because I had people messaging me all week wanting them, and I had none of them, and I couldn't do anything about it because I was gone. And I was like, man, I could have sold like $1,000 worth of baits that week, and I was at the beach. But I think with the blue crawl, I really want to do more of the crawls. I feel like there's not enough time in the day. And I've done the green, I've done the red, I've done a brown, I've done one a little more orange, but I did one that was like a chartreuse yellow the other day for a guy that wanted one kind of recreated. And I thought like doing neon colors, fluorescent, maybe do a fluorescent blue, a fluorescent green, a fluorescent yellow, fluorescent pink, orange, and just kind of, but they all had black bellies. The whole bottom of it was black. So that just the top really and the sides were, I mean, I know there's probably nothing out there that looks like that as far as in the water, but again, that goes back to catching people. If it looks cool,
it'll still work. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's not a natural really bait like that I would normally do, but I had a pretty good, amount of people that liked it, I guess. So.
Yeah, you basically named almost my whole top 5. I would say my top 5 for you are probably like crappie, blue craw, crawdaddy, your smallmouth pattern, and then your pumpkin seeds. Like I think all of those are just absolutely killer. And I'm an ultra realistic guy. Like I love small, minor details. I mean, there are some people that they're going to call it a smallmouth pattern, and it's just it's got a brown base with some dark brown bars on the side, and like that's supposed to be smallmouth. And it's like, no, you almost take the approach of like, it's ultra real. It looks like a mini replica almost in terms of the detail that goes into these things. So yeah, you have some killer patterns, like some signature patterns. Are there any like parts of your game on the lure painting side? Because like you said, you've only been at this for 5 years or so that you still like look at and you want to get better at?
Yeah. I mean, scales on, I see some of these guys that are painting for some of these big name swim bait guys, builders, and I'm like, how did they do that? Some of these, the way they do the 3D textures on scales, which I can do it, but they're doing like 50 a day in these big baits or something. I'm like, something outrageous. I'm like, I've never done more than 40 crankbaits in a day. And that was a 12-hour day at least. And it's like, how are you staying focused enough? Are you eating? Are you Are you hydrating enough?
Blink
for that
twice
bait?
if you're okay.
Yeah, I'm like, and how are you painting these huge baits like this and putting all that detail into them, and able to do it every single day? I would be burnt out on it probably. That's kind of why I like having the replicas too, so I can switch it up every week, and I do baits 1 week, replicas 1 week. But yeah, I would say the just the scales, different fabrics that you can use, or netting type materials that you can use to make the scales. I'm always trying different things like that, I guess, to make them better. Which there's stuff I'll do today that in a year I'll think looks not good. And I guess that's kind of a thing that is why I've gotten where I'm at now, and why I continue to get better, is because I always criticize my work. And I like even your fish that I did, it's been over a year ago, I guess now. Yeah. Probably I would look at it now and not like it as much. But when I first did
that only makes one of us, because I'm looking at it right now and I'm totally fine with it. So
well, anything, like I have fish hanging on my wall in my shop, and people come in and I don't even want them to see it, because I'm like, I think it looks awful, and they love it, but I'm like, I need to replace those with something newer, because I've gotten better. But then in a year, I'll think whatever I did now is not as good. But that's just I guess that's just my brain. Like you said, that's how it works.
Just constant evolution, and that's how you get great at something, is not getting satisfied. But the other side of this thing is the replica side. So you just mentioned that. How long have you actually been doing replicas now? Because it's been less time, obviously, than the crankbaits.
Yeah, I'd say about 3 years on that.
Okay.
I'd say really, really pushing them, probably 2.5. I think I did a couple. I did one for my dad for Christmas. The first year, just maybe I did it in December of that 1 year, and then I waited a little while, and they're expensive. So when I was starting out, it was like nobody's buying it; I'm having to buy it. So to practice on, and so, but yeah, so about 3 years, I guess.
So why did you want to get into that? Because, dude, that's so much more, at least to me, I would think, it's so much more pressure. Like, it's one thing to paint somebody's, crankbait, or to paint some, hard baits and stuff for someone. And okay, not that this happens, but if you get it and you don't like it or whatever, okay, well, it was $10 or $12 or whatever. When you're trying to replicate and recreate someone's fondest fishing memory and their pride and joy moment maybe of their entire fishing life, the pressure on that is so much more. So when and why did you decide to get into the mount side of things?
Well, like I said earlier, my dad has always taken me fishing, and he's always pushed me as far as the art side. He's always said, you can do that, you can do anything you want, and he always told me, if you start doing this, and you do it full time, when I retire, I'll help you. And I don't know if he's just really wanting me to do it because he sees something in me, or if he gets so much taxidermy done, he just wanted a discount, probably. No, but for real though, I guess I would say my dad's kind of pushed me into it, or pushed me toward it, and I finally gave in, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna surprise him. I'm gonna try to paint a crappie for Christmas, and I did it, and it ended up being really fun. And he tried to mount a crappie, which knowing now about crappie, is they're probably one of the hardest fish to mount, apparently, which is why his looked horrible for the first one. And I can't say anything about his mount because my paint job on it looked just as bad or worse. So it wasn't like, putting lipstick on a pig, or, it was, I was just rubbing dirt on it. I mean, I didn't make it look any better than it did. But, so just from there, I just kept trying. I mean, it was the same as with the crankbaits, it interested me, and I did one, and that was enough to get me hooked. And from there, I wanted to do another one, and another one, and another one. And I posted in a couple Facebook groups and asked people to critique my work. And, at the time I thought, this is amazing. This is awesome. My stuff looks so good. And now, like I said, same thing. I look back at it and it's horrible. I've still got them, and I look back at them sometimes if I can bear to. But, first guy said, I I can tell you you didn't look at any reference photos. And I was like, how does he know that? But now I can see somebody else's work and I can tell they didn't look at any reference photos. So I get it. And then somebody else, they were critiquing me. So they were,
Yeah.
I asked for
you
it.
asked for
So
it.
I wanted to know what I'm doing wrong. And, one guy said, I can tell you paint crankbaits because you really went heavy on the color. Fish don't have color like that. It's light layers of color over each other. And I was like, man, he's right. But the same thing. Now I can look at other people's work and tell exactly that they didn't use reference color or they paint crankbaits. I did a rainbow trout. That was one that I did, and that thing was bright green on top and a bright fluorescent pink stripe down the side. It looked like a crankbait, a big crankbait, and that's what the guy was right. So, but that's how you get better. You ask people's opinions, and there was some people that messaged that I would look at their work and I wouldn't take anything that they said at all. But then I would, I decided real quick, like if I'm going to be the best, then I've got to learn from the best. So I'm going to take criticism from the best. So I've done that.
What's the biggest difference between, like, obviously size and size of canvas, but between going from crankbaits to a full fish mount? Like, is it just a totally different ball game, or once you get coloring right, is it fairly similar?
I would say it's very similar. I guess when I first started the replicas, I was all about the airbrush because I do everything with the airbrush on the crankbaits. And then since, I'd say in the last year, I've tried a lot different types of media, different powders, different pastels and charcoal and different paints, different types of paints. And so I've kind of incorporated some of that stuff back into the crankbaits now too, to just add more depth and details into them. But I can do most of it with paint. But it's, with the replica, you're painting each scale. Like I guess when I first started, I thought you start at the head and you just start spraying down to the tail. But if you really want that detail and that texture and that realism, you got to paint every scale individually, like 5, 8, 10 times a piece, and it takes time. And sometimes you got to get up and walk away and come back because you just your eyes start getting crossed, I guess, looking at some of them, especially on a rainbow trout.
Oh, I can only imagine all the dotting and stuff you have to do on these.
Between the dots and then having to go back and tip every little scale. I kept saying, I'm going up on my price for just for trout. I'm going
you go
up
cross-eyed doing it. Yeah.
Yeah. There's about 1 million scales on every one of those, but yeah. I mean, there's a lot of similarities, but I can still, I think learning the, more in depth into the fish itself and the anatomy of the fish and how their bodies work and how the colors and, just focusing, like anytime I go fishing, if I see a pretty fish, I'm taking pictures of that thing from every angle, and I make an album on my phone for that fish, or, just for bluegills. I'll have 50 different pictures of bluegills, but I don't just use those for the fish now. I mean, I'm using it for the crankbaits also. I can always pull up a picture. I can go straight to that album and start cycling through them and just so you can see those little extra details.
So for people that don't know, like the life cycle of a replica mount from, idea to fully done mount at your doorstep, what does that process look like? So basically, like, I go out fishing, I catch a giant fish, I want a replica made. Now what? What do I do? Like, what do you need from me in terms of measurements and pictures and things like that? And then what do you do with that to turn that into what I'm basically looking on my wall at right here?
Well, the first thing you should do when you catch it, I would say, is yell and scream and get all excited and stuff. And then try to focus on making sure that you get the length, the girth, and the weight of your fish. A lot of people don't get the girth, which is fine. If I'm ordering a replica, then we can look at your pictures, make sure you get good pictures, both sides, every angle you can get. I mean, just the more pictures, the better. And if you have all that, then that's all I need. I mean, and if it's a cool looking fish, if it's got something unique to that fish, that makes it even better because I'm custom painting this for you. I'm going to make it look like your fish. So any blemishes, any scars, any chunks taken out of the fins, tails. I did one the other day that one of its eyes was blind. It's not been too long ago.
Very cool.
So that was kind of cool. When he told me one of that, I'm like, heck yeah, that'll be something cool to figure out. And it took me about 3 tries to get that cloudiness look on it, but it ended up, I was very happy with it. And so anyways, you get all that together, you message me, and from then on, we'll talk about the price. We'll talk about what you want. Do you want it a wall mount? Do you want a two-sided, like a pedestal mount, 360 degrees? And then I will look up different blanks from different companies I can find. There's some private guys that sell blanks too that I can look up and see what they have and message them, or they'll have a list, or they have a website too, some of them. But either way, I was find as many choices as I can find for your size fish in your species, and then I can send you some pictures of what I found, and then depending on how you want it turned, or like I said, one-sided like a wall mount or a two-sided pedestal, you choose which one you want, and then after that, I just ask for half down a deposit to cover the cost of the replica, and then we write up the order, and then you just wait for me to contact you again, and then when I'm ready, you can get excited again because things are about to happen. So it's an exciting process. And then after that, once I started, I really try to send pictures of updated pictures as I go, just to make it that much better. You can kind of see the process as I go. I feel like that helps. And usually they're always thanking me, like, thanks for sending me these pics. I really enjoy seeing the process too. So
that's something I'm embarrassed right now that I've never thought of it, but you should get pictures of both sides of that fish. I'm guilty of that before, of probably not doing that. You just get an awesome picture of you holding it the way you normally hold it. One probably straight up and down, one horizontal, and you call it a day. But with the mounts that you're looking at, like, you don't know ahead of time whether that fish is going to be facing right or left, right? You're looking for the most accurate mount. I have 2 fish on my wall right here. One's facing to the right and one's facing to the left. And I didn't think about that when I took the pictures of those fish, and different sides of that fish look different. So if you want it to be truly accurate, then you do need to take both sides. I mean, obviously, you can just flip the photo and make that fish mirrored, I guess, if you want to. But if you want the fish to look like it actually does, then you do need 2 sides of the picture of that fish, because you don't know which mount you're going to find that looks best. So that makes sense too. The other thing, when you're looking for mounts, like the actual blank itself that you're going to paint, how hard is it for you to find an accurate mount? Like, I have no idea how many options are really out there. So if I send you, hey, I caught a 21.5-inch smallmouth, it's 5.5 pounds. When you're going out there and looking through those different websites and those private dealers and things like that, are you finding 2 options for that fish? Are you finding 50 options for that fish? How many different options for the actual blank part are really out there for specific fish?
I would say I do a lot of largemouth mostly, but for largemouth, usually I can find 3 or 4.
Okay.
I would say smallmouth, there's probably not as many selections. There's about 3 like big name like taxidermy or replica type companies that have a lot of choices, but it's a lot of different species. So in that one species, they may only have 20 choices, and that's from like a 14-inch all the way up to a 28-inch. So and then you may not have I know some of them, you may have a 22-inch bass, but then you may not have a 23, but you have a 24. So you either got to get one that's an inch bigger, but it might have the girth. It might be the right size, or it might be a little smaller. But so you got to give a little. You can't. I really wish there was an option for every inch or every half inch, and then the girth too. But it's just not. It's not possible. And I know a lot of people want as close as they can. And I've not had anybody like really complain that they would probably if it was smaller, obviously. But
right.
they're definitely not going to complain if it's a bigger fish. But I don't know. I've never had them complain about any of that, really. Not that bad.
The other thing I think is cool is the tiny little things that make that fish special. You were talking about the cloudy eye on the blind one, the one you did for me. I mean, I didn't even tell you about it. You did it because you saw the picture of it. But, you know, the tail had this like weird notch out of the top part of its tail fin. And you actually took the time to notch that completely correctly so that the fin looks exactly like my picture does. And obviously the blank that you're getting just comes looking perfect and, you know, how you want a fish to look. And that's the kind of thing, the attention to detail that makes that so special. If I catch that fish again next year, I'm going to know immediately because I look at it on the wall every single day and I recognize that tail no matter what. I stare at it for, you know, an hour a day as I sit here and work at this computer. So yeah, that's the kind of stuff that makes these very, very special. And I would argue that I think there used to be this thing back in the day where people were like, oh, you know, I want the real fish, the real fish. It's like, I have a mount of a real fish right there, and I have a replica mount that you made for me. And the replica mount kicks the living tar out of that full, you know, skin mount, largemouth. I know people aren't going to be able to see this, but I don't think you've ever seen this Blake. So I'm going to pull this off the wall and show you. And you're going to be embarrassed at what this true skin mount, largemouth looks like compared to what you do. It looks like an 8th grade art project. Look at the lateral line on that fish.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Does that make you just want to squirm?
The mount itself, they did a good job on it.
Yes. No, the actual mounting of the fish, they did a really nice job. The art side of things leaves a little to be desired.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not bashing any taxidermist. Technically, I've done 4 or 5, maybe a little more skin mounts, but I don't enjoy it as much. But I think a lot of taxidermists, they like the pulling of the skin over the mounts, over the forms, and that part of it. But then when it comes to the painting part, it's a totally different ballgame. You know, they don't understand it like I do, I guess. But if I had to put skin on something like a deer or anything, I would be lost too. So I mean, it's totally, you know, two different things. But
I guess my point is, I think the replica that you made for me more accurately represents the fish that I caught that day than the actual dead fish that I have on my wall does. And it's because of the art side of things. Like, that's what you're seeing as the person looking at that fish on the wall, is you're seeing the exterior of it. And as you mount a fish, the exterior is the paint and everything like that. Have you ever been like approached from a skin mounter? I don't know what the term is here, like an other taxidermist, to say, hey, I'm really good at the skin mount side, but I need someone that knows what they're doing to actually paint this fish? Because that seems like the smart thing for these people to do.
Yes, I have. I've had some other taxidermists, and like I said, they like the mounting part of it. And they don't have the time to spend on painting. I didn't make much money on them because they'd already told them a price, and I just had to kind of get part of what I could. But that's why I don't do it that often. But you know, that's what taxidermy means. Is like the taxi is like moving, and dermy is skin. So they're moving skin, and so technically, people argue this all the time. But like doing the replicas, they don't consider it taxidermy, I guess. But I mean, I guess if you're molding the fish yourself, you're messing with the skin of the fish, then yeah, that would be more taxidermy. But I don't know that I consider myself a taxidermist most of the time anyways.
So when you're painting these fish, I know you were talking about going scale for scale and things like that. And I've seen like the sped up videos of what you do. What is the order of things that you do to this fish in terms of painting? Like, do you hit a fresh blank that you just got in the mail? Do you hit that with some sort of base coat? And then you go with like more of just the overall color layering? And then I've seen the thing where you take like, almost looks like a pencil, and you're like drawing every individual scale on this fish. Like, what's the normal chronological order of what you're doing to paint that?
Well, it comes in when I get them, they don't, it's just the body of the fish and the head's separate, and there's no eyes. The fins are all off of it. So I have to assemble the fish.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, everything. So some people buy the eyes. I buy blank eyes. So I mean, that just makes it that much more custom. I paint the eyes to match your fish the best I can. I mean, if you can't see the eye in there close up, I just paint it like a generic bass or whatever fish it is. But I have to physically put it in there. I have to rebuild all that with a 2-part clay and smooth all those around the edges to make it all fit just right. And just like the eye, a lot of people just slap that eye in there and throw some clay on it. But there's parts of that eye you have to understand the anatomy of how the eye works, how it rolls around in the head, the sclera that goes across the top of the eye. You got to rebuild all that. And then the inside of the mouth, there's a lot of parts in there that I mean, you don't just glue the head on it. I mean, the gills, you can't just glue them in. You got to smooth all that in there, and it's a lot of finishing work. That's all just to get it to where I can paint it, and then I clean it with alcohol, prime it, and after that, yeah, it's a different. There's antiquing. I'll do a little bit of antiquing where you'll spray it and then use steel wool or some kind of Scotch-Brite pad to scrub off the paint, but all the paint that stays on there is deep in like the little pockets of the scales. So that just it makes that the details stand out. And then you just lightly go over it with different layers of color. The pencil thing you were talking about, it's not really a pencil. It's like a eyeshadow applicator. Okay. I get them off Amazon.
Nice.
Just
we won't judge you.
Yeah, no. Yeah, my wife was like, "Why?" When they came in the mail, she's like, "Why do you have eyeshadow sponges?" Or I'm like, "It's for the fish. It's for the fish." But yeah, different. Like I said, different powders, different pastel colors. A lot of the powders have more pearl in them. For like you were talking about earlier, where different angles. When you look at it, it'll sparkle or shine or shift color, and then the pastels will be more for just a solid color. But even then, I can put a layer of pastels down, and then you'll spray. It's like a hairspray. You spray it on it, and it kind of locks all the pastels in. I like using those because if I put them on there, if I mess up, I can just use like a little damp washcloth or a paper towel and just wipe it right back off.
That's what I was going to ask. What happens if you mess up on this thing?
Yeah, well, to be honest with you, I guess because I see the color so much, I just know if, okay, I did too much of that, I can spray this color on it, and it kind of dulls it back down, or it puts it back to where it was. So I'm not going to say I don't mess up. I mean, I do, but I because I put such light layers of color, you don't. I do have sometimes with like a rainbow trout doing those spots, and you just be spraying, and every spot will be perfect, and all of a sudden the airbrush decides that it wants to have, it wants to just spray as much paint as it can at that moment for some reason, and it hits, and it just spats. They call it like spidering, or where it just goes everywhere. But usually, if it's still wet, you can kind of wipe it off. But before I do anything like that, where I know I'm going to spend a lot of time on all these spots, I'll spray what I guess they call it a mid coat. It's just I use acrylic paint, so it's basically a clear acrylic.
Okay. It locks in what you've done before.
Yeah, everything from there back is locked in, and now anything now that I'm putting on top of it, if I do mess it up, I can kind of, with a damp washcloth or not, a paper towel, and I can kind of wipe that back off.
You're saving your work as you go, and you can hit the undo button at certain points if you need to.
Yes, yeah. Exactly. That's a good way of putting it.
Smart.
Command Z.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So have you dipped your toes at all into the skin mount side of things?
Yes. I've done 4 or 5, and the part I don't like about skin mounts is the shrinkage when the fish dries out. You can buy forms that are kind of the size of your fish. You measure the fish a certain point to a certain point, and then you can just order the form that's fit, but they never quite fit your fish. You have to sand them down a little bit to get them to fit. And so I've kind of, in the past one I did, and I posted on my Instagram, I in order to not have to deal with the shrinkage of the head and the fins, I actually removed the head, removed the fins, and I molded them myself. So technically the head was plastic and the fins were plastic, but on the other side of it, it is still your fish's head and your fish's fins, but there's no shrinkage. When you would put that form in there and you get it all where you want it, and you position the fish how you want it, normally with the head on it, over a week period of the fan being on it and it dries out, you just slowly, like all around the jaw starts shrinking up, around the eyes shrinks up. And you either got to, some taxidermists might just let it go, or you've got to get some sort of clay, a 2-part clay, and go in there and rebuild all that stuff to make it look good. And even then, to me, and I'm just not as good at it, maybe because I haven't done it enough, but I just don't, it still looks like a dead fish to me. Even if I put an amazing paint job on it, there's still parts to it that there's the shrinkage that you just can't quite get right. And it is possible to get it right, but to me, it's a lot of work. And not that I'm scared of the work, I feel like the replicas just look so much better. I mean, they were molded when the fish was pretty freshly dead, I guess, and it's still not, it still looks alive as far as there's no shrinkage.
How are you not ripping the skin when you do this type of stuff? I would assume dead fish skin and kind of dried out fish skin is sort of brittle. Deer makes sense to me. Like I've killed deer before and I've field dressed them and, skinned them and stuff like that. And you're like, okay, that makes sense. That skin comes off in like kind of like a stretchy sheet sort of thing. I'm assuming fish don't do that, right? Like how do you preserve just the skin part of it?
Well, there's different solutions. And everybody, you asked all these different old timers, they're like, oh, you got to put this, you got to put denatured alcohol in there. Oh, you got to put borax in there. They got all their own different mixtures and stuff. But there's a solution that I've been told, and I use it. But I mean, you soak it in there and it helps preserve the skin, but it also helps the scales, like sucks them into the skin good, so they don't just pop off when you're. And you also, when you're fleshing the skin, you don't want to go against the grain as far as backwards. You want to go. Yeah. You want to go with the direction that the scales are flowing, because that could mess it up too. But actually, the skin on a fish it's pretty tough. I mean, it just depends on how sharp your knife is too. You could cut right through it, I guess. But you get it. You get it on there. You get it on a good, you don't want to put it on like a table. You put it on some kind of a towel that's been folded over a few times, or it's good and soft, and you can scrape, and then it's not that bad. I think once you can get most of it off, you soak it in a solution and then get it back out, a day later, and it usually, the meat just comes right off real good.
So if someone's bringing you a live fish, you or anybody, I guess any taxidermist at this point, and they want to do an actual skin mount, how should they bring that fish? Because I remember when I caught that one and I was going to get it mounted, I panicked and I threw it in my bathtub for a while. My wife got very mad at that and was not a fan of a 6.5 pound largemouth being in the bathtub. So I had to get it out of there. And I remember hearing someone say to wrap it in a wet towel and freeze it. And so that's what I did when I took it to the guy. Is that the preferred method, to try and keep a fish ready to be taxidermied, I guess, or is there a different thing that people should do?
That's probably the number one thing that I've heard, and it seems to work pretty good. A wet towel. I've heard people say after that, maybe, like, I know they say do not wrap it in newspaper. I'm not sure the reason. I'm sure it messes the fish up. But
the ink from the newspapers just bled into the scale, so you've got some local news murder story on like the side of your largemouth, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, and even though with a towel, like I've had this is just me from personal experience, where I wrapped one in a towel and I thawed it out, but then I took the head off and I was going to mold the head. Well, the texture from that towel, even though it wasn't like a floral towel, it was just those little tiny, the ends of the thread. When I molded it and I poured and I casted it in plastic, and I'm like looking at it, I'm like, what is all this texture? And I'm like, that's the towel. The towel was indented in that whole fish's head. So like, man, it messed the whole thing up. But I know next time, I guess. But it's one of those learn as you go things.
Yep.
But I would say, wrap it in a towel, a wet towel, put it in a trash bag, and then put it in the bottom of like a black trash bag, and then roll it around in that real good. Wrap tape around it, write on it what it is, how long it is, the girth, the weight, and your name would be awesome. So that way, when you take it to a taxidermist, it'll all be on there already. It's nice and wrapped up, and it's got all the information, so they can stick it straight in their freezer until they have time to work on it.
So you've worked with both types of mounts. If someone's listening to this, if they either have, I guess if they have already, then they only have one option, so that's a bad example. But if they go this weekend and they catch the fish of their lifetime, if it was you and you have this, memory you want to preserve for the rest of your life, are you going replica or are you going skin mount based on what you know?
I would say replica. They've come so far with the replicas. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I probably would have been more toward the skin mount side, probably. But 10, 15 years ago, I wouldn't have known what the options were, I guess. Now seeing what I know and what I've seen and how detailed you can go with the replicas, and knowing that they'll last forever. I mean, they're just not going to deteriorate like a skin mount over time that yellows or if they didn't clean the head out good on a fish, oils could be seeping out and bubbling up and yellowing underneath. So there's so many things. And there's a lot of majority of taxidermists know what to do to how not that to happen. But I think also a lot of people are just going towards replicas because they want to do catch and release. They want that fish to continue living or let someone else have the opportunity to catch that big fish. And that's understandable too. Some people may just want to eat the fish and then have a replica. I mean, as far as on my end of it, whatever you do with it, that's fine. I'm not going to be mad at you whether you released it or whether you ate it. But if you're ordering a replica from me, then that's fine. So, but yeah, I would definitely go replica. There's just too many good things about it to me. Because like I said, the fish lives and the replica is just going to last longer.
Yep. I agree. As someone that has both of them right in front of me, I am way more happy with my replica mount than I am with the skin mount. You also don't have the guilt. I've said this before a billion times. I have a lot of guilt when I look at that largemouth. I know exactly where I caught it. I wish that fish was still back in that water. I wish it had made hundreds of babies at this point, and it's, gene pool was still in that particular body of water, which has gone very downhill the past 5 or 10 years. So yeah, you get the best of all worlds. Like you said, it's going to last longer than you will on this earth. It will, look great. There's not really any upkeep to them with this skin mount. There's all kinds of stuff you have to do to make sure that it lasts as long as possible. And it's still not going to last probably your whole lifetime. It's going to have issues at some point. But yeah, I can't say enough about the replica side in general, because I was always very much in the camp of, I want the real fish. I want the real fish. I want the trophy in my room if that's what I want to do. And just the way that things have come so far today, you definitely made me a believer in the replica mount. So kudos to you. I know we've kept you longer than we said we would, but I appreciate you hopping on here. I think the last thing I want to say, and it's going to be the lamest compliment that I can give you, but I don't know how to say it any other way, is just like, especially on the replica side, like it just looks real. And I know people are listening and being like, well, duh, replica is supposed to look real. But, when you look at other people's fish mounts, like a lot of times they're either lacking in detail or they're over exaggerated. Everything that you do from the crankbait side to the, fish mount side, it's the artistry of it that I think really makes it stand out. So kudos to you. Keep doing everything you're doing. If you need a lure painted, Blake's your guy. If you need a fish painted, you need a memory brought back to life, Blake is your guy. Blake, I got one final question for you, I guess, giant question. Are you taking orders currently?
Yes, I am. I'm trying to decide what I want to do currently. I guess in the last month, like I said, I guess because it's warmed up, people started fishing more, and it's now I'm starting into my third year of full-time doing this. My name's getting out there more. People are noticing stuff more, and I'm trying to figure out how do I need to do this, because before it's like I had time to do things, and I could figure it out, and now it's starting to. I'm getting further and further. I'm not gonna say behind. I'm not behind because I'm further and further out, I guess. So, but yeah, I'm taking orders. I just have to kind of be picky on what I want to do, I guess. And that's the beauty of having my own business and doing my own thing, is if I don't want to do it, I guess I don't have to. But if I don't feel like I'm capable, I'm not going to just do it. But yeah, I'm taking orders on replicas and baits at the moment.
That's awesome. Well, there you go, folks. Cat's out of the bag. For a long time, I think I probably considered Blake one of the best kept big little secrets in bass fishing, and now that has definitely changed the past couple of years. You've been becoming a lot more popular, and rightfully so. The stuff that you're putting out both on the bait and the replica side is incredible, and you deserve it all. A great guy, a great small independent company in South Carolina that's just making stuff that's kicking the snot out of a lot of people, especially around here, or people that I see on the internet as well. So if you're looking for a fish mounted, if you're looking for a bait painted, Blake's your guy. You can go find him over on Instagram and Facebook at darkcorner_custom_crankbaits or darkcornercrankbaits.com. Blake, we really appreciate you stopping by today and kind of giving us a peek behind the curtain at everything you do. Keep killing it, man. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity, man. I really appreciate you.
All right, everybody, that is our conversation with Blake Paff of Dark Corner Customs. Thank you so much, Blake, for stopping by. Again, I really appreciate it. He is my go-to for anything that I need custom painted. I wanted to introduce him to you all. He is one of those guys that I said at the beginning of the episode is criminally underrated for the quality that he puts out. And he's very affordable in today's day and age in terms of the pricing of both his custom painted hard baits and his replica mount. So if you want to go check him out, again, it's Instagram at darkcorner_custom_crankbaits. You can find him on Facebook. You can find him on his website, darkcornercrankbaits.com. But we really appreciate him stopping by. Go support him. People like that are the people that we should be getting behind in the fishing industry. People that make a superior product and are superior human beings behind the scenes too. Blake checks both those boxes. So thank you guys so much for listening today. We really appreciate you. As always, you can go find us on our website, tackletalkpodcast.com. Find us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, all at Tackle Talk Podcast. And we'll see you right back here next Tuesday for another brand new episode of Tackle Talk.
Thank you for listening to the Tackle Talk Podcast. Tackle Talk is produced by Andrew Hayes. Copyright 2019. For more, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts.